Good morning, everyone. My name is Joe Barber, and today we are going to learn how to throw a forehand in disc golf. Before we get started, let's lay out the goals for our lesson today. First one is we want to identify what disc golf is. It's a little bit difficult to learn how to throw a forehand if you're not really sure what the sport of disc golf might be. Second thing we'll talk about is what types of throws there are in disc golf. And then finally, we will round it out with how to throw a forehand. All right, before we jump in and find out a little bit more about disc golf, let's talk about some of the terms we might hear today. First one is backhand. This is the most commonly known throw in disc golf. It derives its name from tennis because the motion, having the arm cross over in front of the body, then moving outward and releasing the arm extended before the body, is reminiscent of a tennis stroke. So just think about a backhand in tennis. A forehand, also known as a flick or a sidearm, arm does not cross in front of the body, as with the backhand. And for this one, you want to think of skipping a stone. The next term, hyzer, an angle of release where the outside edge or left edge of the disc is tilted downwards, and anhyzer, the angle of release where the outside edge or left edge of the disc is tilted upward. And this is anytime I'm going to be talking today, it's a right-handed thrower only. If you are left-handed, you are going to reverse everything that I'm talking about here today. All right, so let's figure out what is disc golf. What is the sport of disc golf anyway?
Disc golf is one of the world's fastest growing sports, with over 5,000 courses in the United States and over 1,000 courses in Europe, the vast majority of which are open to the public and completely free to play. Disc golf is very similar to traditional golf, except instead of a ball and a hole, you have discs and a basket. The goal of disc golf is to get the disc to land in the disc catching basket. A typical round of disc golf will include 18 holes or baskets, each being 200 to 300 feet in length, and played as a par 3, meaning the goal is to get the disc in the basket in 3 throws or fewer. A typical round will take 60 to 90 minutes based on your pace of play, and the lowest score wins.
So thinking back to our goals for our lessons today, we have covered what is disc golf. Now let's talk a little bit more about what types of throws there are in disc golf. Now, there are several types, but for today, we're really going to focus on a backhand, and we are teaching the forehand. So what you see here in this picture is several examples of what a right-hand backhand looks like. I just wanted to show an example of it so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like to throw a backhand. And then as we progress on to this next picture, you'll see this is pretty much the ideal form for a forehand. So I think it's good to always have a visual as to what we're doing. So I wanted to show off here where you can see the backhand and the forehand. Now let's jump in and figure out how to actually throw a forehand. All right. So the first thing we want to talk about when we're getting ready to throw a forehand is grip. What kind of grip are we going to use? So right here you see I have got a disc golf disc. And let's talk about the first thing we're going to do is, again, talk about the grip here, okay? So when you're going to throw a forehand, what you're going to do is look for the underside of the rim here. As you can see, there's this nice rim right there. And that is going to be perfectly made for your fingers. So what I like to do is I take my middle finger, put it down first, and I use what is called a stacked grip. So I put my other finger on top of that, and I'm trying to press down on the edge of that rim there, as you can see. And then on the other side, what I'm doing with my other is I've got my thumb on top, so I'm pinching this together right here. Like I can almost feel my fingers underneath on top right there, and I'm pushing down into that corner. So you can kind of see that, the way that looks there. This is a stacked grip. We've talked about our grip already. Remember, we've got our stacked grip on the inside of the rim right here. Finger down, thumb on top. But now how do I stand? Now I want to be in an athletic position, and what I like to tell people here is think about a baseball stance. A lot of us have played baseball before, so it's good to relate to that. So kind of want to be feet shoulder width apart, facing forward. So if I'm going to throw that way, I want my shoulders pointed that way, and you're loose. You've got your grip. Almost ready to go. We've got our grip. We've got our stance ready. Let's talk about how we want to release the disc. If you remember, some of the key terms we talked about earlier were hyzer and anhyzer. So my goal into learning to throw this disc is that I want to throw it flat. I want the disc to come out flat like this, because what that's going to do is make the disc want to fly straighter initially. So you really want to work when you're going to throw it to make sure it's flat. Now remember, the hyzer we were talking about before, if I want to throw this disc on a hyzer, I'm going to tilt it down a little bit, and this will cause it to kind of turn and fade quicker to the right. If I throw it on an anhyzer, it's going to cause, which would look like this, to tilt it down a little bit, it's going to cause it to go left first and then come back right. But for today's purposes, what you really want to work on is keeping that disc nice and flat. So when I go to throw it, it's nice and then flat. And so we've talked about our grip, we've talked about our stance, we've kind of talked about how we want to release it. So now what we have to do is throw it. And I think that a really good thing to try to remember here when learning how to throw a forehand is that think back to when you were a kid. You're out by the river, you're on the sound, you're by a creek, and you're trying to skip rocks, right? Think about that motion right there. Where when you throw, you want to skip that rock out there, right? Get as many skips as possible. Throwing a forehand is the exact same thing. So if I've got the disc in my hand, what I might want to do when I'm learning is, think about skipping a rock, right? You're going to down, weight back, transfer it up, bam, right? See how I'm flicking my wrist there? Same thing. So let's put the disc in our hand, grip, got it nice and flat, and we're going to release it. Think about skipping that rock. Think about skipping that rock. And when you feel good, give it a try. Remember, nice and flat, no spin. Perfect shot. All right, so now let's take a look at this form from a more professional. As you can see, really getting some torque into that, really pushing that thing out pretty far there. Yeah. So this is what the ideal forehand form would look like. He's got that thing pinched. You can see the baseball stance, and he is really going to skip that rock. And just to review before we finish up, how to throw a forehand. You want to find the rim of the disc and use the stack grip. Remember, that's one finger on top of the other. You want to press your thumb down and pinch those fingers together, thumb on top of the disc, fingers below. Think baseball, relaxed stance, knees bent, ready to kind of be in an athletic kind of motion and stance. And once you're ready and you're feeling good, think about skipping that rock. Remember, skipping that rock across the water, and that is going to get you a very good start to throwing a forehand.